You are listening to Larry Conners, USA.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Conners USA. Larry Conners USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
We're looking for a guilty verdict. We're looking for a guilty verdict, and we're looking to see if all of the talk that took place and has been taking place after they saw what happened to George Floyd, if nothing does not happen, then we know that we've got to not only stay in the street, but we've got to fight for justice. But I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that will say guilty, guilty, guilty.
April the 19th, 2021. Those are the words of Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Democrat, California. She was in Minnesota. She's talking about the Derek Chauvin trial with George Floyd, of course, his death, and the closing arguments have been underway throughout this morning in that murder trial. The jurors are going to be sequestered to make their deliberations after all the closing arguments are made. But here's Congresswoman Waters, a member of Congress, in the streets of Minnesota, violating a curfew, by the way. Violating a curfew that the governor had put in effect for that state, a Democrat governor. And she was out with the crowd and saying, we want a guilty verdict. And it's not just any verdict. She wants a murder verdict. And basically making statements, as you heard, if we don't get that, then we're going to call for more action in the street. Now, how far she wants to go and say with that, I'm going to have to leave some of it to your interpretation. What she says is pretty clear, so I'm not going to try to re-emphasize or rather try to reinterpret what she's saying. I will ask, with those kinds of remarks, if there is more violence in the streets, if the verdict comes back and it's not what she wants or others want, would that be akin to what state-controlled media said about Trump and his address to the group on January 6th in D.C., and then blaming him for what happened inside the Capitol? I'm asking. The point she's making also is not just guilty, but guilty of murder. I mean, Derek Chauvin is now charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Could be any one of those cases. The charges carry penalties anywhere from 4 years to 40 years. And, of course, we're going to have to wait and see. The prosecutors rested their case last week after 38 witnesses over 2 weeks. The defense called only 7. And, of course, all this goes back to May 25, 2020, when the video circulated wildly and widely of Derek Chauvin, police officer, after George Floyd is on the ground, his hands handcuffed behind him, and Derek Chauvin's knee in the back of George Floyd's neck. Now, we saw that video a lot, but during the testimony of the case, according to testimony, and this would include prosecution witnesses as well, his knee was not in the back of his neck all that time, mostly on the shoulder for the most part. Well, the jury's going to have to decide did that still contribute to the death because, of course, there has been allegations, and more than allegations, documentation that Floyd had had previous drug incidents and problems with it and heart-related drugs. And he had drugs in his system. Not looking to explain anything that happened. I'm just saying I want you to look at all the facts. And I will have to admit, that was one of the cases that when I first saw it, I said, that's wrong. The officer went over the line. Because all I saw and all we were told is that he kept his knee in the back of his neck for a full 9+ minutes. Well, see, that's the problem with rushing to judgment. We began to hear more information. Now you have Chris Cuomo over the Friday referencing some of these various shootings we're having around the nation. And Chris Cuomo makes a statement that some are saying that's extremely alarming, but is there any defense for what he said? Just listen.
And you know what the answer is? You really do. You don't like it. I don't like it. It scares me. Shootings, gun laws, access to weapons. Oh, I know when they'll change. Your kids start getting killed. White people's kids start getting killed.
Chris Cuomo saying we're going to have gun laws when white kids are being killed by police. Is there any defense for that remark? Don't rush again into judgment. I want to break it down for you in more detail as we move through. But I'll also remind you, when we have everyone calling for defunding police and pulling back police manpower, and of course, police are always the culprit. I should correct that. Are often blamed as a culprit, whether or not they're doing their job exactly right. So who's to blame for this shooting in Chicago over the weekend at a McDonald's? A father and some of his children going through the drive-thru. 2 men in another car get out and open fire on that vehicle. The father is wounded. A 7-year-old girl is killed. Who's to blame then? Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You can email Larry at LarryConnersUSA@gmail.com. LarryConnersUSA@gmail.com.